The sky bled red. From the jagged cliffs of the Blackfang Mountains to the shattered ruins of Westmarsh, the world cowered under the crimson shadow of Ashmaw, the last and most terrible of the Elder Worms. Villages turned to cinder, castles melted into blackened bone, forests became fields of charcoal. The sun hadn't been seen in months. Only Northspire Bastion remained untouched, a fortress carved into the cold heart of the north, where ice still stood tall against the tide of flame. And within its halls, a young man with soot-stained hands and a forgotten bloodline stood at the threshold of destiny. Fire Kaelin Doran. Kaelin was no hero. He had no royal title, no legendary sword, just the scent of forged smoke in his hair and a burn scar across his chest, the only memory of the day fire took everything. They called it the Night of Ashfall, when the sky rained embers and a red-winged demon turned Kaelin's village to dust. He had survived in a coal bin, barely breathing. His mother's lullaby drowned in screams and falling beams. Years passed. He became a blacksmith's apprentice. Strong arms, quiet voice, tired eyes. But something stirred within him when the name Ashmaw echoed through northern winds. A heat, a whisper, a promise. Shield the call of the vigil. The kingdom's high steward, Archon Vayrix, summoned Kaelin to the war chamber. You bear the mark of flame, the old man rasped, pointing to the jagged burn on Kaelin's chest. Not a scar, a sigil. The symbol of the Vyrikar, the bloodline that once communed with dragons. Kaelin stared at the brand. He had hidden it his whole life. The Vyrikar were betrayed, Vayrix continued. Slaughtered during the breaking of the Flame Pact, when dragons turned against men. Only one heir survived, hidden in ash. Kaelin, his blood boiled. Was he to blame for Ashmaw's wrath? Or was he the key to ending it? Dragon the monster in the mountain. Far south, high above the river Cindergloom, stood the fortress once known as Dreadspire Keep, now a ruin fused with the monstrous shape of Ashmaw himself. The dragon no longer flew. He had grown into the stone, his wings like scorched banners, his claws speared into towers, his molten eyes watching the world burn. Ashmaw had not always been a beast. In the old age, he was Myrathar the Flamebound, guardian of balance between Dragonkind and mortals. But betrayal twisted his soul, and centuries of rage gave birth to a new name. Ashmaw. Crossed swords the Ashseekers. Kaelin would not stand alone. From across the realm came others who had lost everything to the Crimson Terror. Ara Valden, a one-armed warrior of the old scorched vigil, with fire in her veins and vengeance in her eyes. Muriel the Shadeweaver, a sorceress hunted for her cursed magic, shadow and ember twisted in her fingers. Thane, a blind ranger who could hear dragons in the wind and shoot by their echoes. Boric Flamegiat, a dwarven rune priest carrying sacred relics once used to seal worms in stone. Together, they became the Ashseekers. A final rebellion, a hopeless march toward flame. Volcano the journey to flame. The road to Dreadspire was scorched and deadly. They crossed Charvale Pass, where ash devils roamed. In the ruins of Emberfall, they found a city still burning 5 years after it was lost, its fires eternal. In the Wormscar Valley, Muriel summoned a wall of obsidian to shield them from Ashmaw's hunting spawn. And then came the Cradle of Flame, the place where the Flamebound were once anointed. There, Kaelin placed his palm on the ancient wormstone. It ignited, and the fire did not burn him. Instead, it spoke. A voice, deep and broken, echoed in his skull. Vyrikar, Flameborn, and this. Crossed swords Dreadspire. They arrived under a sky darker than night, with stars drowned by smoke. Dreadspire loomed ahead, a fortress turned into a living beast. The stones breathed, the walls cracked with slow, rhythmic pulses. The gate was a ribcage. The battlements were claws, and at its center, Ashmaw, coiled around the shattered throne like a crown of ruin. He saw Kaelin and spoke not in words, but fire. Blood of Vyrikar, my shame, my end. Kaelin stepped forward, blade drawn, crimson brand, reforged from the bones of the last Wyrm he would ever face. The battle began. Tornado the final duel. Ashmaw rose from the keep, wings unfolding like storms. His roar cracked mountains. His tail split towers. His fire turned rock to glass. But Kaelin stood firm. Ara and Thane held the outer gate, buying him seconds. Muriel summoned shadows to choke flame. Boric unleashed forgotten runes that burned with ancient light. And Kaelin, he ran straight into the fire. Through collapsing stone and waves of heat, he leapt upon the worm's neck, his blade a burning comet. Ashmaw screamed, not in pain, but recognition. This was the end foretold. One flamebound must fall for the other to rise. Fire, ash and legacy. Kaelin drove Crimsonbrand into Ashmaw's throat as the dragon fell. The impact shattered Dreadspire. A column of fire rose into the heavens. Silence followed. Then, the sky cleared. Kalen awoke in the ashes, half dead, the blade melted, his eyes glowing faintly red. Ashmaw was gone, but not destroyed. He lived within Kalen now, his spirit bound to the last of the Virikar. A guardian reborn, not of destruction, but of balance. Epilogue, the flame reforged. Years passed. The world healed. Forests grew where glass once stood. The sun returned to the sky. And in a new keep forged atop the ashes of Dreadspire, a king stood watch, not with a crown of gold, but with eyes that glowed faintly red and a sword forged from molten memory. They called him the Flamebound King. And in his shadow, dragons slept. But fire never forgets.